You have booked your cruise, you have packed your bags, and you think you are ready. But here is what almost nobody tells you before you step onto that ship. 12 mistakes are quietly waiting to drain your wallet, ruin your first day, and turn a dream vacation into a stressful mess. And most passengers walk straight into every single one of them without even realizing it. From packing one common item that gets pulled at security to skipping a 5-minute step online that turns into 2 hours in line on Embarkation Day, these are not rare accidents. They happen to thousands of cruisers every single week, and by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to avoid all 12. Stick around, because mistake number 7 is the one almost nobody thinks to worry about, and it is the one that costs the most. Some of these mistakes cost money, some cost time, and one of them can cost you the entire cruise before it even starts. So pay close attention. Before we get into it, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because Senior Cruise Secrets breaks down exactly what the cruise lines never put in the brochure, and it can save you real money and real stress on your very next sailing. Now let us get into it. Mistake 1. Bringing a power strip with surge protection. Packing an extra power strip for your phone, your camera, and your medical equipment feels like smart planning, but most major cruise lines ban any power strip that includes a surge protector, a breaker, or a built-in fuse, and security will pull it right off your luggage at the terminal, leaving you without the extra outlets you actually needed for the week. The reason comes down to fire safety, since surge-protected strips have been linked to electrical incidents on ships in the past, so screening staff are trained to catch them immediately, no exceptions, and no appeals at the counter. A 63-year-old from Orlando packed her usual home office power strip, watched it get confiscated at the terminal, and spent her entire first afternoon trying to charge 2 phones and a tablet off one single outlet. Here's what you do: buy a basic power strip with no surge protection, no breaker switch, and no built-in fuse, or use a simple outlet splitter instead. Check the box before you pack it, and if the word surge protector appears anywhere on the label, leave it home and save it for your next flight instead. It also helps to check your specific cruise line website a week before sailing, since the exact list of banned items changes from company to company and gets updated more often than most passengers realize. A 5-minute check now can save you an entire afternoon standing in line at guest services trying to explain your situation. Mistake 2. Ignoring travel insurance coverage limits. Most travelers buy travel insurance, see the word covered, and assume they are protected against anything that could happen at sea, but standard policies often cap medical evacuation at $10,000 to $25,000, and a real emergency evacuation from a ship can run $30,000 to well over $100,000 once a helicopter and a mainland hospital get involved. A 71-year-old from Tampa had a medical emergency on day 3 of her cruise, needed evacuation to the nearest port city, and was left with a $50,000 gap once her basic policy paid out its limit. This is not a small print detail. It is the single biggest financial risk of the entire trip, and most people never even read that section of their policy. Here is what you do. Before every cruise, look specifically for a policy that covers maritime medical evacuation with no sublimits, or add a dedicated evacuation plan from a company built for travelers. These plans often run $300 to $500 a year and cover evacuation up to $500,000. For anyone sailing regularly, This single line item matters more than almost anything else you pack. When you call to compare plans, ask the agent directly what dollar amount the policy pays out for a helicopter evacuation and a mainland hospital stay. Write that number down and compare it against at least one other provider before you buy, since the difference between two policies that look almost identical on the surface can be tens of thousands of dollars once an actual emergency happens. Mistake 3. Booking shore excursions without understanding ship time. You book an excursion for 2 in the afternoon, feel confident, and show up exactly on time, except the ship posted that time using ship time, not the local time zone of the port you are actually standing in, and the two can be an hour or more apart depending on where you are sailing. A 68-year-old couple from Denver missed their booked snorkeling excursion by exactly 1 hour because they went by their phone clock instead of the ship clock, and the tour company had already left the dock without them. Cruise lines print ship time on every schedule for a reason, since the ship itself does not shift time zones the way your phone automatically does, and that mismatch catches new cruisers constantly. Here is what you do. Always check the daily schedule posted in your cabin or on the cruise app for the current ship time. Set one watch or one phone specifically to ship time for the whole trip and confirm the time zone printed on your excursion ticket before you ever step off the gangway. If your excursion was booked directly through a local operator rather than through the cruise line, call or message them the night before to confirm which time zone they are actually using, since a local tour company often runs on the port local clock while your ship documents are still printed in ship time, and that one phone call can be the difference between catching your tour and watching it leave without you. Mistake 4. Arriving at the port too late on embarkation day. Boarding usually opens hours before departure, and it feels tempting to arrive later in the afternoon to avoid the early rush, but security and check-in lines often close completely 30 to 90 minutes before the ship sails, and once that window closes, no amount of pleading gets you on board. A 70-year-old from Sacramento arrived at the terminal less than an hour before departure, found the check-in counters already shutting down for the day, and watched the ship leave the dock without her. This mistake is not about missing the fun. It can mean missing the entire cruise and the money that went with it, since travel insurance rarely covers a passenger who simply arrived too late. Here is what you do. Arrive at the terminal at least 2 hours before the printed departure time. Check your specific boarding window on your documents the night before, and never plan a same-day flight that lands less than 4 hours before your ship sails. If you are driving to the port yourself, build in extra time for parking shuttles and traffic around the terminal, since cruise ports get congested fast on a busy embarkation morning, and the passengers who treat the printed departure time as a hard deadline rather than a rough guideline are always the ones who make it on board with time to spare. Mistake 5. Wearing regular flip-flops on the pool deck. Regular flip-flops feel easy and cool by the pool, but the smooth sole and open back make them one of the most common causes of slips on a wet, freshly mopped pool deck, especially once sunscreen and splashed water mix on the tile. A 66-year-old from Charlotte slipped near the pool ladder in her regular flip-flops, fell hard on her hip, and spent the rest of her cruise in the medical center instead of on the Lido deck. Cruise decks are washed constantly throughout the day, and that fine layer of water, combined with a flat rubber sole, is a recipe most passengers never think twice about until it happens to them. Here is what you do. Pack a pair of water shoes or sports sandals with an actual grip pattern on the sole and a strap across the back of the heel. Save the flip-flops for the cabin floor or the beach, and take pool deck stairs slowly, especially right after the crew finishes cleaning. It is worth packing 2 pairs if you have the room, one for the pool deck and one for wet excursions like a rainforest tour or a beach stop, since a dry, grippy pair waiting back in your cabin means you are never tempted to walk across a slick deck in whatever shoes happen to be closest to the door. Mistake 6. Forgetting to put your phone in airplane mode. The moment your ship leaves your home port, your phone can automatically connect to a cell tower on shore or a maritime satellite network. And international roaming or maritime data charges can run $10 to $15 per megabyte, which adds up to hundreds of dollars from a handful of automatic app updates and background notifications you never even opened. A 69-year-old from Austin forgot to switch her phone to airplane mode before leaving port, came home to an $800 phone bill, and had no idea what caused it until she called her carrier. Here is what you do. Switch your phone to airplane mode the moment you board, download offline maps and any documents you need before you leave home, and only reconnect through the ship's own paid Wi-Fi or a port-free Wi-Fi once you are certain you are not roaming on a cellular network. Before you leave home, it also helps to call your carrier directly and ask them to confirm in writing that cellular data is fully disabled on your specific plan while you are away, since some plans quietly include a small daily roaming allowance that turns on automatically the moment your phone detects a signal, and confirming this in advance removes any guesswork once you are already at sea. Mistake 7. Treating the muster drill like an inconvenience. The mandatory safety drill feels like a formality standing between you and the pool bar, so it is tempting to arrive late, skip a section, or treat it as background noise while you check your phone. But this drill is the one thing standing between a calm evacuation and total chaos if something actually goes wrong at sea. A 74-year-old from Memphis wandered off during her muster drill to find a restroom, missed the safety demonstration for her specific lifeboat station, and had no idea where to go 3 days later when the crew ran a surprise follow-up drill. Cruise staff take attendance seriously, and passengers who skip or arrive late are often flagged and asked to repeat the entire briefing privately, which eats into your first afternoon on board. Here is what you do. Treat the muster drill like the most important 20 minutes of your entire cruise. Arrive on time. Listen for your specific station number, and know exactly which stairwell and deck leads you there without needing to think about it. Walk the actual route from your cabin to your muster station once during the drill itself, rather than simply standing in the general area, since finding that path calmly during a drill is completely different from trying to find it for the first time during an actual emergency. And that few minutes of practice is exactly what the drill is designed to give you. Mistake 8. Not checking passport and visa requirements before sailing. Passengers assume that since they are only visiting a handful of ports for a few hours each, a passport that expired recently or one nearing its expiration date will be fine, but many countries and cruise lines require 6 months of validity remaining beyond your return date, and a passport that falls short can mean denied boarding at the terminal with zero refund. A 72-year-old from Nashville was turned away at check-in because her passport had 4 months of validity left instead of the required 6, and she lost the entire cost of her cruise that same morning. Visa requirements catch people just as often, since some itineraries include a port that requires an advance visa even for a short stop, and cruise lines rarely chase this down for you. Here is what you do. Check your passport expiration date the moment you book. Renew early if you are within a year of expiring, and research the specific entry requirements for every single port on your itinerary at least 8 weeks before you sail. Keep a printed copy of your passport information page and any required visas in a separate bag from your original documents, and photograph every page on your phone as well, since a lost or delayed passport renewal is far easier to resolve quickly when you already have clear copies of everything ready to hand over at a consulate or a terminal counter. Mistake 9. Not understanding beverage package terms. The unlimited drink package sounds simple, but most packages cap you at 15 alcoholic drinks per 24 hours, set a maximum dollar value per drink before you start paying the difference, and exclude premium bottles, certain specialty coffees, and room service delivery entirely. A 65-year-old from Kansas City ordered a top-shelf cocktail that ran $2 over her package limit, assumed it was covered, and was surprised at the end of the cruise by a stack of small overage charges that added up to well over $100. Gratuity is also already built into most packages, so adding an extra tip at the bar on top of that is paying twice for the exact same service. Here is what you do. Read the specific terms of your package before your first drink. Ask your server directly whether a drink falls within your limit before you order it, and check your onboard account every couple of days so small overages never quietly stack up into a large surprise at checkout. It also helps to ask at the bar which specific menu items are excluded from your package before your first order, since premium spirits, certain wines by the glass, and bottled water at some bars fall outside even the higher tier packages. And knowing that up front means no surprises when your final bill arrives on the last night. Mistake 10. Missing online check-in before the cruise. Skipping the online check-in step feels harmless, since you figure you can just fill out the same forms at the terminal, but passengers who complete check-in at the port instead of online are routed to a slower manual line, and that single missed step can turn a 15-minute boarding process into a 2-hour wait standing with your luggage. A 67-year-old from Phoenix skipped online check-in, assumed she could handle it at the counter, and ended up standing in the terminal for nearly 2 hours, while online passengers walked straight past her into a nearly empty priority line. Online check-in also locks in your specific boarding time window, so skipping it can leave you with whatever late slot is left once everyone else has already claimed the early ones. Here is what you do. Complete online check in the moment it opens, usually 30 to 90 days before sailing, depending on your cruise line. Upload your documents and photo in advance, and print or save your boarding pass so you walk straight into the fast line on embarkation day. If you run into any trouble uploading a photo or a document, contact your cruise line or travel agent well before the deadline rather than waiting until the final days before sailing, since the online check-in window often closes completely a few days before departure, and missing that closing date pushes you right back into the slow manual line no matter how early you show up at the port. Mistake 11. Booking a cabin near entertainment venues. a cheaper cabin directly below the pool deck beside the nightclub, or near the main theater looks like a great deal on the booking page. But that same location often means dragging deck chairs at 6 in the morning, bass from late night music through the wall, and theater applause rattling your headboard until well after midnight. A 64-year-old from St. Louis booked a discounted cabin without checking the deck plan, discovered it sat directly under the sports bar, and barely slept a full night for the entire 7-day cruise. Cruise lines rarely mention noise in the cabin description, since the deal itself is often the reason the price looked so appealing in the first place. Here is what you do before booking. Pull up the full deck plan and check exactly what sits above, below, and beside your cabin number. Avoid anything near the pool deck, the theater, the nightclub, or the crew service corridors. And pay the small difference for a quieter location in the middle of the ship if peaceful sleep matters to your trip. Reading real passenger reviews for your exact cabin number before booking is one of the most overlooked steps in the entire process, since other travelers who stayed in that same cabin will often mention noise, vibration, or a view blocked by a lifeboat long before the cruise line own description ever does. Mistake 12. Waiting too long to reserve popular shows and specialty dining. The most popular Broadway-style shows, comedy performances, and the best specialty restaurant time slots often sell out within the first few days after the cruise line opens. Reservations, sometimes weeks before the ship even leaves the dock, yet many passengers wait until they are already on board to try booking, only to find every good slot already taken. A 66-year-old from San Diego waited until her first night on the ship to book the specialty steakhouse, found every evening fully reserved for the entire week, and never got the dinner she had been looking forward to for months. Reservations for shows and dining typically open through the cruise line app or website well before departure, and the passengers who book early get first pick of both the best times and the best tables. Here is what you do. Open your cruise line app the moment reservations become available, book your top show and dining choices immediately, and set a reminder a few days before that window opens so you are not left choosing from whatever is left over. Even if your preferred night shows as fully booked, check back once you are actually on board, since a small number of tables and seats often open up from cancellations in the first day or two, and the passengers who keep checking are usually the ones who end up with a spot after all. 12 mistakes, 12 simple fixes, and now you know exactly how to sidestep every single one of them before you ever step onto that gangway. No expensive gadgets needed, and no insider connections required, just a little preparation ahead of time. If this saved you from even one of these mistakes, or even just gave you one thing to double check before you sail, that is exactly why Senior Cruise Secrets exists. So make sure you are subscribed, tap that notification bell, and share this with anyone you know who has a cruise coming up. Because the passengers who plan ahead are always the ones who come home with the best stories, the smoothest trips, and biggest smiles instead of the biggest headaches. Take a screenshot of this list, keep it in your phone right up until Embarkation Day, and you will walk onto that ship more prepared than most of the passengers standing in line beside you. See you in the next one.